This is our second week looking at various elements of worship. Worship in the Greek means to bow and to kiss, to bow towards or to kiss towards. It's an act of humility and an act of reverence. It's an act in which we recognize that God is worthy of our worship, is worthy, and that we are subject to God. It's an act in which we place ourselves in an open and receiving posture to learn and to do what God desires. As friends, we've often seen worship not as just something we do together on a Sunday morning, but as the way in which we live our lives. I think it's beautiful this morning that we've heard how going and picking up apples in an apple orchard can be an act of worship. Can be an act by which we ask God, what do you want to say to me? And we listen for God in response. We listen to the things that God is telling us. Sometimes, though, it can be difficult to know what it is that God desires from us. This morning we're going to look at a few different scripture passages, but we will come back again and again to Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. If you want to open up to Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. This is part of this letter from Paul to the Roman church, and Paul hasn't met these people yet. He hasn't been to Rome yet, and he talks to them about all kinds of things. He talks to them about division. He talks to them about not looking at themselves and seeing saints and looking at other people and seeing sinners. He talks to them about how we're all in this together. Every one of us has faults and flaws, and every one of us can be redeemed. And so he tells them in this next section about what it looks like to live their lives as an act of worship. In Romans 12, 1 and 2, he says, "Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in light of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship, or your reasonable act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God." That's what I want. Sign me up for that. I would like to know the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. And I would like to know it in full. I would like a book. Hand it to me. I will read it, I will memorize it, and I will go do it. But God's will is revealed to us on a daily basis. The Message version of these verses says, take your everyday walking around life and present it to God. That's what Paul is saying here. Every part of your life, present it to God. And in each moment, moment by moment by moment, God's will be revealed to you. God's good, pleasing, and perfect will. The first thing that Paul says we must do in this 2-verse section is to surrender. To take our everyday walking around life. To take our living and breathing everyday life and present it to God. We must set aside our daily habits, the patterns that we've become accustomed to. Paul calls them the patterns of this world. And allow God to transform us. That's the first step. Handing God our lives and saying, take it and transform it. This transformation takes place by a renewing of our minds, and that renewing brings us into alignment with what God's desire has been for us from the beginning, which is peace. When we think about how God created the earth, took what was formless and void, and shaped it into the world that we know and see, creating the creatures that we love to watch. I like to watch the squirrels this time of year because they are just so busy. They're so busy, running here and there, finding nuts, burying them. Katharina told me this morning one was trying to bury one in the corner of our roof. She could hear it scratching. God took what was formless and void and made it into what we see now. And God looked at what was made, and God said, I can do better. No. God looked at what was made and said, it is very good. God delights in creation. God delights in you and in me. God has a dream and a vision for how we can live and work and love together side by side in harmony. God's desire for us is peace. God's desire for us is shalom, wholeness in every part, so that we have something to bring to the table, so that we can give our entire selves not only to God, but to each other. In Matthew 11:28 through 30, just in case this sounds overwhelming, Jesus says to us, come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take your yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The first step is surrender, and the second is simply walking alongside Jesus. Christ is not seeking to make you miserable. I don't know about you, but there are days when that line goes through my head. That if it's not hard, then I must not be in the right place. That if I'm not miserable, I must not be in God's will. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Jesus says, come and learn from me because I am gentle. Gentle, what's the opposite of gentle? Coercion. So we fear a strong-arming God who wants to make us miserable. But that's not the God of the universe. That's not the God who created us. The God who created us says, come alongside me. Walk with me. Let me carry the load with you. Jesus doesn't say, come and I'll put a yoke on you. He says, come and be yoked with me, side by side, so that we can learn the ropes beside him, so that we know that we're not alone. Christ doesn't want to load you down with all kinds of new jobs to do or make you work extra hard for this transformation. It's something that comes just as we walk side by side with him. Jesus said he would be in the yoke with us, pulling the weight with us, showing us the ropes. God does not give us a list of rules or even a book containing his entire will for our lives and then just send us on our way. For that, I'm thankful. As much as I want, tell me what I need to do at 8:03 this evening, God. I have to get to 8:03 this evening and then listen. I have to wait. But the beauty of that is that God is with me. The beauty of that is that God does not send us on our way alone, but promises to be by our side, to guide and direct our steps as we are willing to be directed. In John chapter 4, verse 23, when Jesus is talking to the woman, the Samaritan woman at the well, and she's saying, well, where do we need to worship? And what do we need to do? And what's the right way to go about this if you're the Messiah? Jesus says, the hour is coming and is now here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeks such as these to worship him. God longs for those who would walk beside him, who would listen for his voice, who would be willing to be shaped and transformed and to obey. So the first thing we must do is surrender. The second is walking with Jesus. And the third might surprise you. Because as much as I've just said, God doesn't give us a book with all the answers. The third thing that we're responsible for is to study. To study. If our minds are to be transformed, how are our minds transformed? Our minds are transformed as we come more and more in contact with the truth of God. If we are to worship God both in spirit and in truth, we must confront our minds with the truth of God and not listen to those lies. That's what we're doing today, right? What lies have we named? One, that it would be better to have a list with all of God's rules. Throw that lie away. God's presence is better than any list of rules. Two, that God desires to put a heavy yoke on us, a weight on us, and force us to do his will. That's not what God wants from us. How do we get rid of that? We confront it with the truth. Where does that truth come from? It comes as we study the experiences of those who have gone before us. That's what this book is full of. The stories of those who have gone before us in the faith. How they have walked with God. How God has been revealed to them. And what God reveals through the circumstances of their lives. God didn't operate any differently in the past, even though we know that God did things like give the 10 Commandments to the people of God. But whenever God wanted to speak to the people, God spoke with a person. God spoke through human leaders. God spoke to human leaders. God has never been far away. We come to learn the truth as we walk with God and as we commit ourselves to studying the lives and the experiences of those who have been walking with God throughout the millennia. That's how we come to know a God who is the same yesterday and today. A God who we can put our hope and trust in will be the same forever. We don't often think of study as an act of worship. We don't often put that high on our list. We think of coming together on Sunday morning. We think of singing songs. We think of offering praise. But studying Scripture with an open heart and a willingness not only to learn, but to apply what we find, can be an act of worship all on its own. It can be an act of worship by which we come and we recognize God as present with us and we seek God's truth to confront the lies that we believe, to confront the habits that we've gotten into, to confront the patterns of this world, those things that would set us against one another. How does the world operate? Everyone for themselves. But God has a more excellent way for us, a way of love, a way of harmony, a way of shalom. And we find this way as we commit to walk with God in spirit and in truth.